Hi, I'm Hugh Whitmore. Welcome to the One True Church. Today's Bible lesson is actually a foray into the real world, not the spiritual world, because I'd like to comment on some political events so that Christians can get an idea of what they should and shouldn't be doing as people who are supposed to be worshiping the one true God. I don't comment often on day-to-day events, especially political events, because politics are well-planned rituals for Satan. So I'm going to go over a political event today so you can hopefully learn to not take part in something that is counter to God's interests. This lesson is kind of harsh, but it's true, and hopefully it'll help you make a good decision. As I make this video, a conservative jurist named Brett Kavanaugh has been nominated by President Trump to fulfill a vacancy on the Supreme Court. People who believe in politics believe this is a high-stakes event, but it's nothing but a scripted farce. A woman or women have come forth to say they've been sexually mistreated by this man. A media circus has been in place for about a month, and now that the vote is near for the nominee, it's reaching a peak. A list of headlines from today. Supreme Court opens new term without ninth justice in place. Horrible, right? Kavanaugh fight in state of uncertainty. Of course, everything's an uncertainty in the media, right? Yale classmate says he misled on drinking habits. Horrible. Comey, that's the FBI director. Dig deeper. Many women line up in support of Brett. Coulter, that's Ann Coulter, a fake conservative person. No more Mr. White Guy. That's an interesting term, isn't it? Goodwin, worst is yet to come. That's a liberal. Trump, Dems questioning, not angels, media, local. These are tweets, supposed tweets by Donald Trump. Donald Trump has never put his fingers on a phone and tweeted anything. They have very highly paid propagandists that do that for him. Poll deadlocked on party lines. Ooh, scary, right? McConnell, he's a senator. Vote this week. So it's all there to make you afraid and get you believing in something that isn't real. These headlines are designed to make you believe there actually is a political process, and more importantly, that you should be upset about it and get involved. There is no political process. Zero. None. The political outcomes for the United States and for all nations are set far ahead of time, and the part that looks like a process is all planned and acts as a ritual for the devil. Let me step back a bit for some context before I explain how this particular ritual is being played out. Presidents are not elected in America. They're selected. 2 years before the last presidential election, Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Trump both knew that Mr. Trump had been selected to be president. The rest was scripted ritual. The challengers, the primaries, the media coverage, for and against, the final election, and finally the concession of Mrs. Clinton and the triumphant victory parties of Mr. Trump, all scripted in advance. Both Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Trump are on the same team, playing the same game, paying the same dues for the same evil God, the devil, running the same ritual. Let's go even further for you history buffs. All wars are planned. World War II was planned. Roosevelt in America, Hitler in Germany, Stalin in Russia, Mussolini in Italy, Tojo in Japan, they're all in the same club, on the same team. That war, like all others, was discussed far in advance, and the desired outcomes were agreed upon ahead of time. The issues for the war were faked, and the public fervor was stoked by the satanic media. The starting date was chosen by all sides. The battles were orchestrated with full knowledge of the leadership of both sides. The dead were counted for Satan's purposes, and the end came as agreed, and the previously agreed upon outcomes were put into place. Those who run this world run this world. Let that sink in for a moment. This world is run by people, Satanists. It's not a spontaneous place. They don't take chances with anything. Everything is rigged. Everything is concocted for us. It's a Babylonian death cult, and that's why there's so much death and evil here on earth. The devil stole God's kingdom, and the devil stays in power through the creation of evil spiritual energy from the creation of confusion, injury, and death. Now getting back to the faked ritual in this case of the Supreme Court nominee. The same scripted event happened to a conservative jurist named Clarence Thomas in 1991. Thomas was nominated by a supposedly conservative president, Reagan. A woman claimed sexual improprieties against Mr. Thomas, and just as today, the nomination hearings were a circus with both sides spewing intense invective against the other side. Just as with the presidential elections, and just as with World War II and all other wars, the outcome of the nomination of Clarence Thomas and the outcome of the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh are not in doubt. The outcomes have been planned and the ritual put into place prior to the outcome, and it is a benefit to Satan. Satan is the father of all lies, and since all of this theater is a lie, it benefits the devil. And the lie in this case, with the Supreme Court nomination, works like this. People believe there's a thing called politics or the political process, but there's no such thing. It's all faked, with outcomes being in place ahead of time, and then the process is faked to make people believe the process is real. There's a fake party called the Liberal Party and a fake party called the Conservative Party. The people selected to lead these parties are all Satanists with a Satanist agenda. People believe these are legitimate organizations that fight the opposing party, which is false. People who help these parties with their votes, their volunteer hours, and their donations actually believe they have a voice in a potential outcome, but they don't, because outcomes are chosen prior to the events you believe lead to the outcome. The outcomes in place prior to the orchestrated events, whether it be a war or a presidential election, are to create more sin every year, which creates energy and glory for Satan, which keeps the evil one in charge of God's creation for one more year. In the case of these fake Supreme Court nominations, the ritual is as follows. The Conservative Party is the party that presents to represent greater morality. So the conservatives nominate someone who they advertise as moral and in favor of making a more moral society by his opinions on the court. The Liberal Party is openly in favor of more sin, so they bring forward a woman or women who claim a moral lapse on the part of the moral conservative, when in fact the women are actresses selected for the part. They are actresses. The events never happened. The women know it and the nominee knows it. They are all on the same team, willingly taking part in the same ritual. So the women taint the moral standing of the supposedly conservative nominee, who is then still confirmed to serve on the court, in case of Supreme Court. The stupid people who believe in liberal politics get satisfaction that they tainted the conservative, and they rail at the corruption of the conservative president and the conservatives in general. The conservatives, who are just as stupid as the liberals, get hollow satisfaction when their nominee is put on the court. But then the so-called conservative votes over and over for the increased sin the liberals want, so they get nothing in the end, which is exactly the pre-arranged goal for the process. Sin is increased, morality is further eroded, and Satan stays in power another year. Please, if you're a Christian, don't get involved in politics in any way. Don't give money. Don't give volunteer hours. Do not watch or read the process, because to do so is to partake in a satanic ritual. Finally, don't waste your time voting on anything. They count votes only for propaganda value. They don't count votes to determine election outcomes. Every election, whether it's for a person or a political agenda, like a proposition, they're selected, not elected, prior to the process. Spend your time instead increasing your value to God. Turn from sin, do righteous works, glorify the one true God, so he will be empowered to send Jesus back to destroy this fake world and the death cult that runs it with all these fake processes.